came home from deployment to find my room gutted into a yoga lounge, my stuff sold online, and my own family acting like I was dead. I kept my dog tags and handed them over to someone who could get me something much better. The first thing that hit me was the smell: lavender, incense, and some kind of herbal tea. My boots clicked on a polished wooden floor that used to have my scuffed rug from Afghanistan. The walls were repainted white, with some artsy quote decals about energy and manifestation. There were yoga mats where my bed used to be. My gaming console, my photos, my old dresser, gone. In their place were woven baskets, plants, and Himalayan salt lamps. For a second, I thought I was losing my mind. Maybe I'd gone to the wrong house after 8 months deployed. But then I saw it, a small ceramic plaque on the wall. The Lawson Family Yoga Lounge. That's my last name. I turned toward the sound of laughter. My sister, Megan, was walking down the hall in yoga pants, holding a smoothie. She froze when she saw me, like she'd seen a ghost. "Jason?" she whispered. "Oh my God. You're back?" Before I could even answer, my mom's voice came from the kitchen. "Megan, who are you talking to?" She stepped in, saw me, and the color drained from her face. Not joy, not surprise, not even relief, just panic. My dad followed behind her, his expression tightening as soon as he saw me standing there, still in uniform, duffel at my side. "What the hell is this?" I demanded, my voice echoing in the gutted room that used to be mine. "Where's my stuff?" Dad rubbed the back of his neck. "Son, we, thought you weren't coming back." I blinked. "What?" Megan put down her smoothie, eyes darting between our parents. They told everyone you extended your deployment, that you weren't coming home for a while. So you sold my stuff?" I snapped. Mom started stammering something about repurposing the space and creating a positive environment. My brain barely processed it. All I could see was the empty corner where my old dog bed used to be. "Where's Duke?" I asked quietly. That shut everyone up. My dad finally spoke after a long silence. "We rehomed him." The words hit harder than any mortar blast. Duke had been my dog since I was 16. My best friend through boot camp, deployment, everything. "You what?" "He was depressed," Mom said quickly. "You were gone for so long. We thought it was best. You thought I was dead, didn't you?" I said. My voice came out low, shaking. "That's why you did all this." No one answered. That's when I noticed something else. A box in the corner labeled Jason's stuff. It was half full. Old photos, my high school football trophies, a folded-up flag, and my spare dog tags. I picked them up. Cold metal. My name engraved deep. When I looked up again, my mom was crying. My dad was stone-faced. Megan looked like she wanted to vanish. I didn't yell. I didn't break anything. I just said one thing before walking out. "You'll regret this." And a week later, I found out something that made that promise very, very easy to keep. I joined the Army right after high school. I wasn't the kind of kid who fit into college, and honestly, I wanted out of our tiny corner of Texas. My parents weren't against it, but they weren't exactly proud either. My dad called it a phase. My mom said, "Maybe you'll grow out of this soldier thing." Still, when I shipped out, they took pictures, smiled for social media, and said all the right things. I sent letters, called when I could. They didn't pick up much after the first few months. When I got home on leave in 2021, things already felt off. My room had started to transform even then. Mom said she wanted to open it up for guests. I brushed it off. When I left for my second deployment, my dad told me I was wasting my youth. Megan had started college. My parents opened a small yoga studio in town, and every post they made online was about their spiritual rebirth. I wasn't in any of those photos. Not one. Still, I kept sending money. Every month, I wired a portion of my pay to my parents, thinking I was helping with the house. Helping family. My sergeant used to joke that I was the responsible kid, the one who'd come back and buy his folks a new truck someday. Then our convoy hit an IED. I got lucky. Bruised ribs, some hearing loss in one ear, but I made it. Couple of guys didn't. We had a few quiet nights after that talking about home, about people who'd be waiting for us. I remember saying I couldn't wait to hug Duke, my dog, a big old black lab with the goofiest grin you'd ever see. That thought got me through some hard nights. But when I came home 8 months later, Duke was gone. My family had moved on. My room wasn't my room. I was a ghost in my own house. After I stormed out that day, I slept in my truck outside an old buddy's place. Danny, another vet. When I told him what happened, he stared at me for a long time before saying, "Bro, you're not gonna like this, but you might want to check Facebook Marketplace." So I did. And right there under local listings, North Fort Worth, was my old TV, my duffel bag, my leather jacket, even the custom ammo case I'd gotten from my unit, all sold by my mom's account. I didn't confront them right away. Instead, I started digging. I checked the town records, the yoga studio's business page, everything. That's when I realized something. The family studio wasn't just a yoga spot. It was registered in my name. They had used my deployment checks, my money, to fund it. And when I looked closer at the business filings, I saw my signature on the documents. Only, it wasn't my handwriting. That's when I realized this wasn't just betrayal. This was fraud. And I wasn't just going to get mad. I was going to get even. I didn't sleep much after that. My brain just kept replaying everything. Them laughing in my house. The yoga lounge sign. My mom's calm voice saying they thought I wasn't coming back. I spent the next week quietly collecting everything I could. Screenshots of the listings. Bank records from the joint account I'd been depositing into. Photos of my signature on the business license. Every piece of paper I could find. Danny helped me. He'd been screwed over by his ex-wife during his first deployment, so he knew the system. He showed me how to pull public business filings, how to verify digital signatures, even how to access archived real estate documents. The deeper we went, the uglier it got. Not only had my parents used my deployment pay to fund their studio, but they'd also taken out a small business loan in my name. It was over $40,000. I had never signed for it, but the forged signature matched perfectly because they'd scanned my old paperwork from when I enlisted. I felt sick. I could have gone to the police right away, but that didn't feel like justice. Not yet. Not for Duke. Not for the way they looked at me like I didn't exist. So I played along. I texted my mom. Just 2 words. "We need to talk." She replied almost instantly. "We didn't mean to hurt you, Jason. Can we meet at the studio?" Perfect. The next morning, I walked in wearing civvies. The studio was busy. Women in yoga pants chatting over smoothies. Someone teaching a class in the back. The walls were plastered with framed photos of the Lawson family. Smiling, enlightened, successful. My mom in her pastel shawl. My dad holding up some local business award. None of them showed a trace of me. Mom came out smiling nervously. "You look good," she said, like I was some distant cousin. "We really didn't mean for you to be upset. You have no idea how stressful." I cut her off. "I want Duke back." That shut her up. Then she sighed, pretending to be sad. "Jason, he's in a better place. The new owners take wonderful care of him." I clenched my jaw. "Who?" "I don't remember their name." Liar. Dad came out from the back room then, pretending to be calm, but his eyes darted everywhere. "Son, look, I know it's hard. We had to move on. The business was struggling, and you used my name," I said quietly. "You forged my signature. You took out a loan under my identity." Dad's expression changed immediately. "You can't prove that." I smiled. "Wanna bet?" He froze. Mom looked like she'd swallowed glass. But I didn't say anything else. I just turned around and walked out. Slowly, deliberately. I wanted them to think I was going to the cops. I wanted them to panic. Because what I was really going to do was much, much worse. And it all started when I found out who had Duke. I made a throwaway account and messaged everyone who'd interacted with the listings. I wasn't subtle. I used the photos I'd taken of my TV and the ammo case and asked bluntly, "Who bought this?" A name popped up almost immediately, Tyler Marks. He ran a local lifestyle brand that did wellness meets rustic pop-ups around town. Big Instagram following, half the yoga crowd followed him. He'd posted a smiling photo of a black lab the day before with a caption about a new studio pup and tagged my parents' yoga page. When I clicked his profile, my stomach dropped. There was Duke, sitting on a sunlit porch, tongue out, wearing a collar that looked familiar. Scratched leather, a little fray on the left side. I'd bought that collar on leave 2 summers ago. I knew that fray. I knew that chew mark near the buckle. Duke in a man bun influencer's feed, looking like the poster dog for a cleanse. I messaged Tyler. He answered fast like he'd been waiting. Picked him up from an estate sale, he said. Poor boy, he needed a loving home. He's thriving with us. Estate sale. Of course. The lie was elegant. Clean. No fingerprints. I pushed. Who sold him? Tyler sent me a screenshot of a DM thread. A neat little conversation between him and my sister, Megan. My stomach twisted. The messages weren't transactional. They were casual, almost conspiratorial. Can you meet Saturday? We can do $400. One read. Another. He's coming with a blanket and his tag removed, per their request. Hope that's okay. My hands went numb. They'd removed his tag. Not mine, the one I'd kept, but his collar tag they'd left on him. Someone had literally peeled pieces of my life off the dog before selling him. I scrolled back. There it was. A photo Megan had sent Tyler the night before the listing went live. A snapshot of Duke asleep on our couch, a half-empty bowl beside him, and in the corner of the picture, our family calendar with a date circled. The caption? Moving him tomorrow. Don't tell Jason. He extended. Megan wasn't just complicit. She'd arranged it. She'd lied about me extending my deployment, then staged it as a sad martyrdom online so the studio could get donations and traction. People had sent sympathy payments. People had signed a condolence guestbook at the studio opening. They'd carved a narrative about a son who never came home, and they'd used it to sell my life off in pieces. I called her. She didn't pick up. I texted. One word replies. Busy. I pulled up the loan paperwork again. My signature. The bank transfers I'd made for house expenses that went straight into the studio's account. The small donations logged on the studio's page with comments like, for Jason, gone too soon. They'd converted grief into income. They'd converted my absence into a marketing story. And they'd pawned my dog for $400. But the thing that made my blood colder than cold was a comment under Tyler's post. From my mother's account. A heart emoji and the words, thank you for giving Duke a loving home. I stared at the screen until dawn. I could hear my own breath, the sound wrong in my ears. Everything was smaller and sharper. The way Megan's name looked in black text. The way the photo of Duke's fray on the collar matched the real thing. The betrayal wasn't some abstract, financial thing anymore. It was a photo of my dog, alive on someone else's porch, and my family smiling in the background of the lie. I wanted to smash something. I wanted to scream until the top of my lungs went raw. Instead, I did the coldest thing I've ever done. I saved every screenshot, every DM, every bank transfer, every smiling studio post where they pretended to mourn me. Then I sent one single message to Tyler. Not begging, not threatening. A single line, meet me tomorrow at 9. I want Duke back. He replied with a time and a place. And when I drove past the address the next morning and saw Tyler's van idling outside a coffee shop, I realized I was about to stop playing defense. But before I could step out of the truck, something else lit up my phone. A forwarded message from an unknown number that made my mouth go dry. It was a photo of my dog tags, the spare set I'd kept in that half-empty box, sitting on a counter under a curious pile of papers. They weren't in my house. Someone else had them. I stared at the photo until my vision blurred. My spare dog tags, the ones I'd touched that day before walking out, were lying on someone's marble counter beside a stack of legal-looking papers. The message underneath was short. You're not the only one they stole from. No name, no context, just that. Danny leaned over from the passenger seat, squinting at the photo. Who the hell is that? I didn't know, but the background in the picture looked familiar. Gray quartz counter, plant in the corner, the same interior from a post my parents had made when the studio opened. That meant the sender wasn't random. It was someone who'd been inside. I replied, "Who are you?" A few minutes later, "I worked with your mom. At the studio. They used my identity too. Let's talk. Somewhere private." We met that evening in the back booth of a diner near I-35. Her name was Erin, early 30s, quiet voice, nervous eyes. She used to teach yoga classes at the studio. She said my parents offered her a partnership deal, paperwork that gave her a share of profits if she helped build the business. But she'd recently found out her social had been used to apply for another loan. She'd quit, but before leaving, she'd made copies of everything, including the loan application with my forged signature. When I told her who I was, she looked stunned. "They said you died," she whispered. "There was a fundraiser. We all sent flowers." I almost laughed, but it came out bitter. "Guess I'm their ghost." We went through everything, the fake loan, the identity theft, the donations. She said she wanted to expose them but didn't know how. I told her I did. That night, I started drafting my plan. Not rage-fueled chaos. I'd learned too much about patience in the desert. This would be clean. Legal on paper, ruinous in effect. Step 1. Get Duke back. Step 2. Expose the fraud without tipping them off. Step 3. Take everything they built on my name and burn it to the ground, quietly, piece by piece. I showed up to the coffee shop the next morning. Tyler was there, all friendly smiles. Duke's tail thumped the floor the second he saw me. That broke me for a second. Just a soft whine. A little jump like he couldn't believe it was me. Tyler's grin faltered when I dropped a manila folder on the table. "Here's the deal," I said. "You can keep the yoga mats, the crystals, whatever. But the dog, he's mine. The papers say it, the vet chip says it. If you argue, I'll make sure everyone knows you're holding stolen property." He opened the folder, adoption receipt, microchip records, the message chain from Megan. He didn't argue. He just nodded slowly. "Take him," he said. I clipped Duke's leash on, walked out without looking back. Then I called an old contact from my unit who worked as a private investigator. Told him I needed certified documentation of forged signatures, digital traces, and business misconduct. Paid him up front in cash. Erin sent me the rest of the files that night, loan documents, fake condolence receipts, tax write-offs labeled as memorial event expenses. I packaged it all neatly into a shared drive under the name Lawson Studio Rebirth Files. But before sending it anywhere official, I got one more message from the unknown number. Same format as before, a photo. This time, my mom and dad at a dinner table with a man in a gray suit. Caption: "The one who made it all possible." The man was the bank manager listed on the fake loan. That's when I realized this wasn't just my family's scheme. Someone else was in on it. And the dog tags they still had? They were more than a keepsake. They were leverage. A week later, my PI buddy, Reese, called me from a burner number. "You're not gonna like this, man," he said. "That loan? The bank manager, he's in on a side hustle with your folks. It's a fake funding loop. They open small business accounts under vets' names. Fake signatures. Real credit. Then they launder the loan money through family-run LLCs. They've done this to 3 other deployed soldiers in your county." I gripped the phone until my knuckles went white. "So my parents are part of a ring?" "Pretty much. And the dog tags? I think they're trophies, dude. The manager keeps them as proof of life. It's how he verifies the fake accounts before filing insurance claims." That hit like a gut punch. They hadn't just erased me. They'd profited off my existence. My identity, my service, my death story. I wasn't even a son anymore. I was a brand. Reese sent me photos from inside the bank manager's office. Rows of framed certificates and, in the corner, a glass case with a few dog tags hanging inside. My tags were there, gleaming under the fluorescent light like someone's sick collection. "Tell me that's illegal enough," I said. "Oh, it's more than illegal," he replied. "But the feds won't care unless there's solid proof of multiple victims. You need another name. 2 minimum." That night, Erin and I sat in her small apartment surrounded by papers, folders, and my laptop open to a spreadsheet. She scrolled through the list of names Reese had pulled from the loan records. I stopped when I saw one I recognized. Staff Sergeant Carlos Nunez. Carlos had been in my unit. He'd been injured, medically discharged. I still had his number. When I called him, he was confused at first, then furious. "They used my name too?" he said. "I signed nothing. And the address listed is your parents' business." That gave me the second name. Proof enough. I looked at Erin. "We can take them all down now." But she hesitated. "There's something you should see first." She opened an email thread she'd been sitting on, one between my mom and the bank manager. The subject line, "Donation Drive, Jason Memorial Fund." Attached was a photo of a check for $12,800 made out to the yoga studio. The sender note from my mom read, "Thanks for pushing the loan through. I'll make sure Jason's memory keeps bringing in new clients." I stared at the words until they stopped making sense. My mom had literally thanked the man for making money off pretending I was dead. That's when I realized something else. The fundraiser photos, the grieving posts, the fake eulogies on social media, they weren't just emotional bait. They were part of a marketing campaign. Hashtags like #HonorJason, #From Tragedy to Healing. And the worst part? They worked. The studio's following had quadrupled during that time. I sat there in silence for a long time. Then I took my Real dog tags from around my neck and placed them on the table. The cold metal glinted in the low lamplight. "They used my name to build something," I said finally. "Now I'm going to use it to tear it all down." Erin looked at me, uncertain. "How?" I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "By letting them destroy themselves. All I need is one small push." What I didn't know yet was that the push was already in motion, and the next person to reach out wasn't going to be a victim. It was someone from inside the family. The twist that gutted me wasn't some petty jealousy or a sudden mental break. It was a spreadsheet. I found it because Erin had shoved a USB drive across the table like it was poison. "I copied everything before I quit," she said. "I didn't want any of them anywhere near me." I plugged it into my laptop in Danny's garage. The whole town sleeping around us, and the files lit up like a confession. There were ledgers, cold columns of numbers, invoices, a list of memorial donors with amounts and notes. There were receipts for black market credit checks and for consulting fees paid to a gray-suited man. There were social media calendars with hashtag strategies. And then, buried under a folder labeled Growth Q4, a document called Asset Reallocation, Lawson, Deceased. That's when it stopped being a family fight and started being a business plan. They had a template. It was clinical. It explained how to convert a deployed soldier into a marketing vertical, create sympathetic content, seed local press, run a memorial fundraiser, legitimize the studio as a nonprofit arm for veteran wellness, which gave tax write-offs, and then funnel loan money through shell LLCs to pay off personal debts and invest in new locations. The plan explicitly listed identifiers to use as proof for lenders: SSN, service record, and, chillingly, dog tags. The dog tags were labeled life markers in one spreadsheet cell. The bank manager had a checklist: photo ID, tag present, microchip verification. If the box was checked, the loan pushed through. If there was a problem, refund donors by reallocating event expenses. This wasn't opportunism. It was corporate-level predation. I reread the emails. My mother's voice was clinical, not panicked. "Jason's absence has created tremendous community support. We can scale this." My dad's reply was a line about stabilizing their retirement and paying off Megan's tuition. Megan's messages were the worst. Excited little notes about influencer partnerships, a list of local brands they could approach for sponsored grief. She'd circled a column called Content Opportunities, the same way someone else might circle a paycheck. They didn't just assume I wouldn't come home. They made sure of it. There was a photo attached to one of the emails that made my stomach flip. A calendar with a date circled and a note in my mom's handwriting. Jason Extended Memorial Launch. It was all planned. She had picked the date they'd announced me missing, booked the local paper, and arranged front row seats at the studio opening for the bank manager and a small crowd who would sign the condolence book. They rehearsed lines. They practiced crying. I thought maybe, at the heart of it, there would be a crack of regret. There wasn't. There was calculation. They had rationalized everything. My military pay was stagnant income, my absence an opportunity. The real kicker was a short spreadsheet labeled projected revenue, 3 years, with a column titled Emotional ROI. They had estimated how much sympathy would convert into customers. They'd put dollar figures next to the words honor and community. The bank manager? He wasn't just facilitating loans. He was the market maker. He collected tags because he needed proof for insurers and lenders that these accounts had real claimants. He kept a cabinet of dog tags like trophies. My tags were nothing to him but validation, a metal stamp that said the system worked. I felt cold all over. Not because of betrayal alone, but because of the scale of it, the way they flattened my life into numbers, my grief into growth metrics. The person who slotted me into a profit model wasn't some stranger. It was the woman who braided my hair for prom, the man who fixed the roof when a storm tore it up, the sister who stole my photos for clout. I thought about how many nights I'd written home about missing Duke, about how the dog had been my tether. They ripped that tether out and sold it to an influencer to buff their brand. They didn't mourn me, they monetized me. The horror wasn't only that they'd lied. It was that they'd planned the lie, optimized it, and laid out the KPIs. Then, in the deepest folder, there was a single email I hadn't expected, from my sister, sent at 2:14 a.m. Subject line, I can't do this anymore. The body was 3 lines. I'm sorry. I didn't know how to stop. They say if I leave, they'll ruin Mom. They say they'll take everything. I'm scared. It was the hand that touched the match. I closed the laptop and didn't feel anything for a long time. The air tasted metallic. My hands hovered over my dog tags on the table. I had always kept them because they were mine. Now they were proof that my life meant nothing more to them than profit. I picked up my phone and typed one number. It was the same number that had sent the photo of my tags months ago. Only this time, the voice on the other end was shaking. Tell me everything, she said. I did. Erin and I didn't rush it. We waited, watched, and timed everything. Revenge only works when it looks like justice from the outside. Step 1 was the easiest. Expose them without giving them a target. We compiled every document, email, and message into a single anonymous package labeled Veteran Identity Fraud Scheme, North Texas. We sent it to 3 places, the Office of Veterans Affairs, the State Fraud Division, and 2 local reporters who loved small-town scandals. Step 2. Pull the trigger in public. The studio had been planning their 3-year memorial gala, a big event supposedly honoring me, the fallen soldier whose spirit inspired community healing. They'd booked local press, influencers, and even the same bank manager to give a little speech. That's when I knew it was time. I had Duke with me that night, sitting in my truck just down the block. I watched the studio glow under string lights and fake smiles. My parents posed with their hands over their hearts in front of a blown-up portrait of me. Megan stood to the side, visibly uncomfortable. Right at 7 p.m., the first reporter's tweet went live. Breaking. Local wellness studio accused of defrauding veterans' identity and collecting false donations. Developing story. Within minutes, another outlet posted screenshots of the forged paperwork, the loan documents, even the asset reallocation spreadsheet. The same one that listed my name and social. The sound of phones buzzing spread through the crowd like static. People started whispering. Someone pointed at my dad. The bank manager slipped away, pale as chalk. And then, poetic timing, 2 unmarked sedans pulled up. Investigators stepped out, walked right through the front door, and within minutes, my parents were surrounded. My mom's face crumpled when she saw the badges. My dad tried to talk his way out of it, but the lead investigator read him his rights over the same soft music they'd cued for healing energy. I sat there watching through the windshield, Duke's head on my knee. I didn't smile. I didn't even breathe hard. I just felt this deep, heavy quiet, like a war finally over. By midnight, the studio's social pages were flooded with angry comments. Every donor wanted their money back. Every partner cut ties. The Lawson family yoga lounge sign came down a week later, stripped clean. The bank manager was indicted first. Then my parents. Forgery, wire fraud, identity theft, falsifying veteran documents, the list went on. My sister cut a deal, turning over her emails and testifying against them. I didn't speak to her, but she sent me one text afterward. I told them everything. I'm sorry. I don't know if I forgive her. Maybe someday. The VA cleared my name. The fraudulent loans were wiped. The government even issued a statement acknowledging the case as part of a larger scam ring. Reporters called me a hero for surviving both the war abroad and the one at home. I didn't feel like a hero, just clean. I used part of the restitution money to buy a small place on the outskirts of town. Nothing fancy. A little acre of quiet, a shed, and a porch where Duke can nap in the sun. Erin and I still talk. She's rebuilding too. Sometimes people ask me if I ever went to see my parents after the sentencing. I didn't. They each got a few years in federal custody. That's time enough to meditate on karma, I guess. I did visit one place, though, the bank manager's office after it got seized. There was that glass case in the corner, still hanging there with the dog tags inside. I opened it and pulled mine out. They felt heavier than before. When I got home, I hung them on a nail above my front door. Not as a reminder of what I lost, but of what I survived. And as for my family's fancy mantra, energy flows where attention goes? Yeah. I gave them exactly the energy they deserved.